Happy National Poetry Month, Day 6. And it's a gorgeous spring day here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm Janna Lopez, and I am a book psychic, writing retreat guide, and word hostess. I work with people one-on-one and help them figure out how to tap into those parts of themselves to be free, clear, and connected through their writing. And I've been talking about poetry as a form to do that. Poetry is one of my favorite things to talk about and to teach. And so I thought today I would share one of my own poems because I know I read Ada Limon's poem a few days ago, the National Poet Laureate. So I thought I would share one of my own and, just briefly talk about what it is and what it means and, just offer a little glimpse and process. So I'm going to share it right here. And there it is. So here we go. So this poem I wrote, probably a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I'll talk about it more after I read it. So I'll first share what it is and we'll go from there. So this poem is called My Love, the Marauder. My love he disintegrated into bones of shadow and eels. A hologram of fear, he flew too close to the sun. A crackled emblem of everything I dreamed of. Everything I imagined, none of it worth envy. After all, my love became a bruise, a punch, a problematic shear. He was a knot's knot, a traveling desperado, eager to rampage his own elusive shadow. He marauded every saloon in every corner of every quiet town of my heart. He raped the child, stole the gold, let horses starve in thirst. He sang love songs at midnight while stars resisted in haste. He left campfires of my longing to extinguish themselves at dawn, smoldering with silt still swirling in ache of a once rising sun. So I love this poem, and I love this poem because what I believe poetry can bring us, give us, or do for us when we make room for it without judgment and criticism is show us something or teach us something or give us back some part of ourselves through this freedom and expression and exploration that happens in real time when we write poetry. So without the confines of expectation, without the confines of should be's, would be's, and could be's, but in this place of where we start with either an idea or a concept or a feeling or something, and we follow along the thread without projecting our thoughts onto it, but rather allowing what's there to just come up freely in real time. Some of the images and words and concepts can be very surprising. So for me, after a breakup last year, I've thought about him a lot and have wondered, all of the ways of describing grief and loss and what that looks like. And so sometimes when I'm writing a poem, I use words that evoke powerful imagery for me. So for instance, the second line, into bones of shadow and eels. Eels seem very slippery and elusive, and that says a lot to me about what the love felt like sometimes. A hologram of fear, the idea that we show up as ourselves, but we're really not ourselves. We're sort of a holographic version of ourselves. And what happens, like that love was so hot and big and large, the idea of flying too close to the sun. And we know what happens when that mythological occurrence happens. So, it's interesting when I read on this, when I read back on these words, And this is what I teach. I really believe that poems are here for us to give us something, teach something to us, and share something with us that we miss, need, hope for, reflect upon, or are trying to get back. So this love poem, I guess, if you want to call it that, is my way of working out all the dimensions and complexities of that time and place. And so I utilize a lot of imagery in my writing, and it really is for me to help myself describe a feeling that doesn't seem like it has words. So, like describing him as a knot's knot, I think that says a lot about how complicated and bound up he felt to me. A traveling desperado, that also says a lot to me. Like, we have an image of a drifter just waiting to land into the next town until that no longer becomes interesting, and so they move on. And I want to talk about the title too, just for a second. The word marauder is such an interesting word. Sometimes when I'm writing a poem, words will just come to me that have some cadence or resonance or feeling or emotion or imagery, and I'm not exactly sure why. And so the word marauder came up, and that's what I went with when I started writing the poem. I started thinking about the concept of a marauder and what a marauder does, what it feels like, what they're known for. And I went with that theme as it related to my love as a relationship, as a town. And so I really loved writing this poem. And the last two paragraphs, I think, pretty much describe the feelings I was left with. He sang love songs at midnight while stars resisted in haste. He left campfires of my longing to extinguish themselves at dawn. And that reminds me of how we sit around the campfire and it just sort of burns itself out. So I wanted to share a little bit about my process. And for me, it's an image or an idea, and I use other sort of metaphorical images that make me feel something or relate to something in a way that other words won't. And for instance, I use the word eels to describe the elusive quality of the relationship. So I would encourage you, when you sit and do your poetry and you start to search for words, that it doesn't have to be literal. It doesn't have to be exact. And to keep yourself in writing and in conversation with yourself, search for those images and metaphors that mean something to you and describe something that you feel or you understand without having to explain it, and see how that goes for you. Metaphors and imagery in poetry is an amazing tool and approach. And basically, the way I look at it, it's like something that you give yourself to keep yourself in conversation and moving forward without the frustration of having to find the exact word. Find the image that gives you the feeling and see where that goes, and include images in your poetry. So that's it for day 6 of National Poetry Month. I'm Janna Lopez, Land of Enchantment Writing, and I hope this inspired you in some way, and I'll be curious to hear the images and metaphors you utilize in your poetry to follow. Let's see where it goes. And I'm looking forward to hearing.